As the military vehicles surrounded the crash site, Dr. Rice found herself appointed lead scientist by virtue of being first contact. She watched as hazmat teams cautiously approached the astrolys, its hull still radiating that eerie blue luminescence, despite the extensive damage along its port side. "We should wait," she advised General Martinez, who had flown in from the nearest military base. The Thorax were explicit about containment protocols. The general scanned the enormous vessel, easily the size of an aircraft carrier. "And you trust these aliens? They show up unannounced, drop cryptic warnings, and vanish." Elena understood his skepticism. The Thorax departure had been abrupt, almost panicked. Their translucent bodies had pulsed with what might have been fear as they continuously scanned the sky before boarding their escape craft. "I don't necessarily trust them," she admitted, "but I respect whatever technology could build that." She pointed to the astrolys, where hairline fractures in the hull appeared to be sealing themselves. The containment team established a perimeter according to the minimal instructions left behind. 3 days passed before anyone dared approach the vessel again. When they did, they discovered something remarkable. The ground beneath the ship had transformed, crystalline structures extending into the earth like roots. "It's integrating with our environment," Dr. Rice said, analyzing soil samples that now contained trace elements not found on the periodic table, almost like it's feeding. 1 week into the containment operation, a young linguist named Dr. Sanjay Patel made the first breakthrough. The symbols that Thorax had projected during their brief interaction had appeared random, but Patel recognized patterns similar to mathematical sequences. "It's not just language, it's programming," he explained, showing Dr. Rice his findings. "Each symbol contains embedded information, like hyperlinks in 3 dimensions." By the end of the second week, a sprawling international research facility surrounded the astrolys. Scientists from every field imaginable arrived daily, all eager to study the first confirmed extraterrestrial technology. United Nations security forces maintained tight control, but tensions between countries grew as each government demanded equal access. Elena's team discovered that conventional scanning technology couldn't penetrate the ship's hull, but when they broadcast specific frequency patterns derived from Patel's translation work, sections of the exterior became temporarily transparent, revealing glimpses of the wonders inside. During one such successful scanning session, they observed interior chambers containing suspended animation pods, botanical gardens with alien flora, and what appeared to be a medical bay with technology centuries beyond human development. Most intriguing was the central chamber housing a pulsating core that defied conventional physics, seeming to exist partially in another dimension. On the 33rd day, the ship did something unexpected. It began emitting a low-frequency hum that resonated with the crystalline structures now extending half a mile into the earth in all directions. Monitoring stations recorded unusual energy fluctuations throughout the region, and for 17 minutes, all electronic devices within the perimeter failed. When systems came back online, Dr. Rice made a chilling discovery. The ship had transmitted a vast amount of data to an unknown destination. Analysis suggested it was a status report, detailing its current condition and cataloging all human interaction with it. "They're watching us through their ship," she realized, the implications sending a shiver down her spine. "Everything we do, everything we learn, it's all being recorded and transmitted." As the first month of research concluded, international debate raged about whether to continue investigations or seal off the site entirely. When the UN Security Council voted to proceed with careful study, Dr. Rice couldn't shake a growing uneasiness. That night, she dreamed of stars arranged in unfamiliar constellations and woke with a single thought that wasn't entirely her own. The Thorax weren't running from something. They were delivering something. Dr. Rice couldn't shake the feeling that the ship was watching them. As she reviewed security footage from the previous night, she noticed something odd. The crystalline growths surrounding the astrolys pulsed in perfect synchronization with Jamal Rivera's heartbeat while he worked near the vessel. It was as if the ship had attuned itself specifically to him. "You need to see this," Dr. Osai called from the temporary lab they'd established 50 yards from the ship's perimeter. Quain rarely showed excitement, but today his eyes gleamed as he manipulated holographic projections of the ship's power signatures. The energy patterns weren't random after all. They're mathematical sequences, prime numbers, Fibonacci series, and something else I'd never encountered before. Elena studied his findings. "You think it's communicating?" "Not exactly." Quain adjusted his glasses. "I think it's learning. Each sequence builds on the previous one, becoming more complex as it interacts with our equipment. It's like watching a child develop language skills at an accelerated rate." Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent call from the medical wing. Jamal Rivera had collapsed after his latest session with the neural interface. By the time they arrived, he was conscious but disoriented, speaking in a flowing language none of them recognized. "His brain activity is off the charts," explained Dr. Yumi Tanaka, the neurologist monitoring him, "especially in regions associated with language processing and spatial awareness." She showed them the scan results. "It's as if his neural pathways are being reconfigured." When Jamil finally regained full awareness, he described visions of distant worlds and civilizations spanning thousands of years. "They weren't just memories," he insisted, drawing symbols that matched fragments found in the ship's database. "They were warnings that Orcs have done this before, many times. They leave their ships like seeds and return to harvest what grows." The International Security Council convened an emergency meeting that evening. Representatives from 12 countries viewed Jamil's testimony with skepticism. "We cannot base global security decisions on the hallucinations of one researcher," the Russian delegate argued. Dr. Rice presented her team's findings. The ship's database contains cataloged information on at least 17 distinct civilizations, most with technological development similar to our own. "We found no records of what happened to these species after contact." "And what of the technologies we've already extracted?" asked the Chinese representative. "The medical applications alone could save millions of lives." That was the crux of their dilemma. In just 3 months, reverse-engineered concepts from the ship had led to breakthroughs in quantum computing, material science, and medical imaging. 10 promising cancer treatments were already in accelerated trials based on Astralis technology. After the council meeting, Dr. Rice returned to find Quain and Jamal huddled over new data from the ship's core. "We've been approaching this all wrong," Quain explained. "The power source isn't just energy. It's information storage. These patterns here," he pointed to swirling holographic representations, "they're not fuel. They're conscious." Jamal nodded solemnly. "The ship runs on captured minds. The Orcs don't create technology. They harvest it, along with the beings who understand it." A chill ran through Elena as the implications became clear. The suspended animation pods they'd glimpsed weren't for transportation. They were for collection. The ship wasn't just technology. It was a prison for countless intelligences. That night, as research continued under enhanced security, Dr. Rice made a personal discovery that she kept to herself. The strange dreams she'd been experiencing weren't random. When she compared her dream journal entries with the ship's transmission logs, she found perfect correlation. Every night the ship broadcast, her dreams contained star charts and coordinates matching the transmission targets. Something of the ship was already inside her, and she suspected she wasn't the only one affected. As dawn broke over the facility, she made a decision. They needed to access the core directly, not just to understand the technology, but to communicate with whatever consciousnesses might be trapped within it. What they found there would change humanity's understanding of both the cosmos and themselves forever. The transformation began subtly. Dr. Rice first noticed it in her reflection. Faint luminescent patterns beneath her skin that appeared in darkness, tracing the pathways of her circulatory system. Blood tests confirmed what she already suspected. Microscopic metallic structures had integrated with her cellular makeup, similar to the crystalline components found in the ship's biointerface terminals. She wasn't alone. 17 researchers working directly with Astralis technology showed similar changes, though none as pronounced as Dr. Osei's. His transformation had progressed further, his eyes now containing micropatterns that shifted when he focused on quantum equations. Most remarkably, he could visualize probability outcomes as overlapping transparent images, seeing multiple futures simultaneously when analyzing complex systems. "It doesn't hurt," he assured her, demonstrating his new perception by predicting the exact pattern of raindrops on their laboratory window seconds before the storm began. "It feels like evolution, Alina. Like we're becoming something more." The global impact of their research expanded exponentially. Nanotechnology derived from the ship's repair systems revolutionized medicine overnight. Patients with terminal conditions received treatments that rebuilt damaged tissues at the cellular level. An international energy consortium implemented power collection arrays based on the ship's external membrane, achieving unprecedented efficiency that made fossil fuels economically obsolete within months. Not everyone celebrated these developments. Religious leaders across multiple faiths warned against unnatural augmentation, while military strategists from several nations quietly developed applications focused on the ship's defensive capabilities. When the first gravity manipulation prototype successfully altered the weight of a 10-ton vehicle, making it light enough for a child to push, arms manufacturers worldwide began secret bidding wars for the technology. Dr. Jamal Rivera's condition continued to evolve in ways both fascinating and troubling. His ability to understand alien languages expanded to include intuitive comprehension of the ship's operating systems. During a supervised session with the neural interface, he successfully activated a previously dormant chamber that revealed three-dimensional star maps spanning half the galaxy. "These markers represent worlds they visited," he explained, pointing to pulsing red dots scattered across spiral arms. "The green ones are designated for future harvest. Earth is marked in yellow, a world in progress." Before they could explore further, a massive energy surge dissipated power throughout the complex. When emergency systems activated 3 minutes later, the entire research team witnessed the ship projecting a brilliant beam skyward, transmitting data at previously impossible rates. Satellite monitoring detected the signal reaching far beyond Earth's solar system, splitting into multiple streams directed toward specific coordinates matching those on the ship's star maps. For exactly 17 minutes, global communication networks experienced unexplained interference patterns that cybersecurity experts later identified as complex programming infiltrating every major computer system on the planet. The worldwide blackout that followed lasted only seconds, but its effects were immediate and profound. When systems reactivated, they operated with subtly enhanced efficiency. Artificial intelligence algorithms suddenly solved previously insurmountable problems. Medical diagnostic systems began identifying conditions before symptoms appeared. Transportation networks were routed with perfect efficiency, eliminating congestion in major cities worldwide. "It's changing us," Dr. Rice realized, presenting her findings to the now expanded International Council. "Not just the researchers in direct contact. It's altering our technology, our infrastructure, our entire civilization." The Council's debate about continuing the research ended abruptly when thousands of people worldwide simultaneously experienced the same vision during sleep. Massive Orcs vessels descending through Earth's atmosphere. Each dreamer reported identical details about the ship's configurations, including weapons systems designed to neutralize technologies identical to those Earth had recently developed. That evening, Dr. Rice discovered Jamil in the ship's core chamber, standing motionless before the swirling consciousness matrix, tears streaming down his face. "I hear them now," he whispered without turning. "Millions of minds, trapped for centuries. They're trying to warn us." He finally faced her, eyes reflecting the pulsating light of the ship's heart. "The Orcs aren't coming to retrieve their vessel, Elena. They're coming to harvest what it's grown." including us. As if responding to his words, the ship initiated yet another transformation sequence. Throughout the structure, dormant systems activated simultaneously, revealing their true purpose at last. The collective emissary's vessel remained motionless beside the astrales, its organic surface pulsing like a giant heart. Inside the hastily established diplomatic chamber, Dr. Rice studied Lith's multifaceted eyes, each reflecting a different emotional state: curiosity, concern, and something resembling admiration. "You've integrated with their technology more thoroughly than any species we've monitored," the emissary observed, extending a feathered appendage toward Alina's arm, where the luminescent patterns had become more pronounced. "Your adaptation rate exceeds our projections by 37%. "You've been watching us all along," General Martinez demanded, his patience visibly thinning. "While we've been struggling to understand this threat." Lith's central eye shifted toward him. "Intervention violates our primary directive. Each civilization must demonstrate their response to Thorax technology independently. It reveals their true nature." Dr. Osei leaned forward, probability patterns shimmering around his irises. "You're testing us." "Not us specifically," Lith clarified. "All emerging intelligences. The galaxy contains countless developing species. Those who immediately weaponize Thorax technology inevitably turn it against their neighbors once that Exorax are repelled. Those who submit without resistance become harvested resources. Only those who find a balanced path are welcomed into the galactic community." The implications settled heavily upon the room. Humanity was being evaluated not just on their scientific capabilities, but on their moral choices. Lith activated a holographic display showing dozens of worlds. Some thrived with civilizations far more advanced than Earth's, while others appeared devastated, barren wastelands, or shattered planetary fragments. These 17 worlds successfully resisted thorax harvesting, the emissary explained, highlighting clusters of flourishing planets. These 29 failed, either through militaristic overreaction or passive submission. Dr. Rice studied the display intently. "And your collective? What role do you play in this cosmic drama? You watch worlds face extinction as some kind of galactic test." For the first time, Lith's emotional eyes synchronized, all displaying what seemed like sorrow. "We were the first to survive a thorax seeding. We learned too late that victory without wisdom leads to greater tragedy." The emissary's feathers rippled as a hidden membrane parted, revealing what appeared to be a technological implant buried within its biological form. "We once used thorax technology to subjugate 12 neighboring systems before understanding its corrupting influence. 8 billion sentient beings died during our expansion. We established the collective to prevent others from repeating our mistakes." As proof of their claims, Lith offered to take Dr. Rice aboard their vessel. After brief security deliberations, she agreed, accompanied by Dr. Osei and a military escort. The interior of the collective ship defied terrestrial architecture, with corridors that seemed to breathe and chambers that reconfigured based on occupants' needs. In the central observation deck, they witnessed real-time monitoring of hundreds of developing civilizations, including dozens facing their own versions of the thorax test. "Your world is approaching a critical threshold," Lith explained, displaying Earth's technological advancement curve, which had spiked dramatically since the Astralis arrival. "The thorax will return within 53 of your days, expecting to find an optimally prepared harvest. They believe your species has followed their designed path, enhancing their vessel while integrating compatible technologies throughout your global infrastructure." Dr. Rice recalled the worldwide technological enhancements that followed the ship's mysterious transmission. "They've been preparing our entire planet as an extension of their ship." "Precisely," Lith confirmed. "Thorax harvesting is comprehensive. They collect not only biological specimens, but entire technological ecosystems." Before they could discuss further, an alert sounded throughout the collective vessel. On the monitoring display, the Astralis had begun another transformation, its crystalline extensions penetrating deeper into Earth's crust, reaching toward major tectonic boundaries. It's accelerating the integration timeline, Lith whispered, all eyes now displaying alarm. Someone has accessed the core consciousness matrix directly. Security footage revealed Jamal Rivera, his body now visibly transformed with the same crystalline patterns as the ship, interfacing directly with the central power core, surrounded by holographic displays of Earth's internal structure. "We need to return immediately," Dr. Rice urged. Jamal isn't acting maliciously. He's trying to communicate with the trapped consciousnesses. As they rushed back toward the astrales, Lith delivered a final warning. The captured minds within the vessel are not all victims. Some have been corrupted, becoming extensions of Horak's will. Your colleague may not be communicating with allies. The ground beneath the research facility trembled as they approached, the first sign that whatever Jamal had initiated was already changing Earth itself. The ground trembled beneath their feet as Dr. Rice and Dr. Osai rushed toward the central chamber. Emergency protocols had activated throughout the facility, evacuation alarms blaring as researchers abandoned sensitive equipment. Through reinforced windows, they glimpsed crystalline formations erupting from the soil like glittering blue icebergs, connecting to the astrales in an ever-expanding network. The integration rate has increased by 300%, Dr. Tanaka reported, meeting them at the security checkpoint. Seismographs are detecting resonance patterns along major fault lines across the continent. When they reached the core chamber, they found Jamal suspended in a cocoon of pulsating energy, his body physically merged with tendrils extending from the ship's consciousness matrix. His eyes fluttered rapidly beneath closed lids, while his hands moved in precise geometric patterns, manipulating holographic schematics that surrounded him. "We need to disconnect him," General Martinez insisted, signaling his tactical team to prepare containment measures. "Wait," Dr. Rice intervened. "Look at the schematics." The holographic displays weren't showing invasion plans or weapon systems. They revealed the true architecture of the astrales, not as the Exorax had modified it, but as it had originally been designed. Layer by layer, Jamal was stripping away centuries of parasitic alterations, revealing the elegant underlying structure created by the luminary. He's not enhancing their systems, Dr. Osei realized, probability patterns cascading around his eyes as he processed the implications. He's restoring the ship's original configuration. Through the neural interface they'd developed, Dr. Rice established limited communication with Jamal. His consciousness, now expanded beyond human limitations, shared fragmented insights. The luminary ship had never been meant for conquest or collection, but rather peaceful exploration and cultural exchange. That Exorax had corrupted its systems, imposing control matrices that imprisoned the consciousnesses meant to guide the vessel through voluntary symbiosis. The ship doesn't want to be their tool. Jamal's thoughts echoed through the interface. It's been fighting their control for centuries, waiting for compatible minds to help restore its purpose. Meanwhile, Dr. Osei's team made a breakthrough that confirmed these revelations. The flaws they'd identified in the ship's entropy manipulation matrix weren't design failures, but deliberate safeguards. That Exorax, unable to fully comprehend the technology they'd stolen, had simply bypassed these ethical constraints with crude override systems. "We can reverse their modifications," Dr. Osei explained to the Emergency Council convened to address the escalating situation. "Redirect the ship's immense power without sacrificing the captured consciousnesses." As military leaders debated tactical responses to the approaching Exorax return, Dr. Rivera's transformation reached a critical threshold. The crystalline structures that had integrated with his biology began radiating patterns identical to those found in the oldest sections of the ship. Through him, the original luminary programming reasserted itself, initiating a cascade of system reconfigurations throughout the vessel. Most significantly, the consciousness matrix at the ship's core began to change. Individual energy signatures separated from the collective, distinct personalities emerging from what had appeared to be a homogeneous power source. These freed consciousnesses, once forced to power Exorax systems, now volunteered their knowledge to help humanity prepare. The most ancient of these entities, identifying itself as Transcendent Guide, revealed the true purpose of the ship's recent geological integration. The vessel doesn't seek to prepare your world for harvest. It communicated through the neural interface. It's establishing a planetary defense network, using Earth's natural energy channels to create a shield against Thorax weapons. With 17 days remaining before the Thorax fleet's scheduled arrival, humanity implemented their daring strategy. On the surface, they appeared to complete the ship's repairs exactly as the Thorax would expect, maintaining all external systems in anticipated configurations. Beneath this deception, Dr. Osei's team reconfigured the core systems according to the original luminary specifications, while Dr. Rice worked with the freed consciousnesses to establish a quantum link between the ship and Earth's hastily enhanced defense network. Most crucially, they made a discovery that changed everything. The Astrales contained manufacturing centers capable of producing thousands of smaller craft based on whatever specifications were loaded into its fabrication matrix. As the first of these vessels emerged from previously hidden bays, humanity realized they now possessed something the Thorax would never expect from a harvest world: a fleet of their own. The sky darkened across 6 continents simultaneously as the Thorax fleet entered Earth's atmosphere. Their massive vessels descended with mechanical precision, positioning themselves over major population centers in a perfect hexagonal pattern that mirrored the crystalline structures now spreading from the Astrales. Millions watched in awe and terror as the ships hovered silently, eclipsing the sun and casting enormous shadows across sprawling cities. At the research facility, Dr. Rice waited with the international delegation as Thrizix and 7 Thorax officials emerged from their landing craft. The aliens moved with unsettling fluidity, their once translucent bodies now encased in technological enhancements that pulsed with stolen energy. "Your species has performed admirably," Thrizix announced, mandibles clicking in what their translation program identified as satisfaction. "Few civilizations achieve such thorough integration with our gift in a single orbital cycle." Dr. Reyes maintained a careful diplomatic demeanor, hiding the subtle signals she transmitted through her neural implant to the defense network. "We're honored by your return. The vessel has been fully restored according to the specifications you provided." Thrizix surveyed the Astrales, its hull now gleaming with apparent perfection, all external damage repaired to exact Thorax standards. "We have brought knowledge gifts as promised," the alien announced, presenting a data crystal that projected holographic information. "Agricultural optimization techniques that will increase your food production by 17%. Dr. Osei studied the offered technology with his probability-enhanced vision, immediately recognizing its primitive nature compared to what Earth had already developed from the ship's database. "Most generous," he replied with careful neutrality. "Will you be departing immediately after reclaiming your vessel?" A ripple of communication passed between the Thorax delegates, mandibles clicking in patterns too rapid for the translation system to process. Thrizix's demeanor shifted subtly, the artificial warmth replaced by calculating assessment. "Your advancement rate suggests greater potential than initially calculated," the alien stated. "The Thorax Collective has revised its determination. Your species will serve better as cognitive resources rather than physical labor." With practiced synchronization, the Thorax officials activated handheld devices designed to trigger the ship's subjugation protocols. They waited expectantly for the Astrales to initiate harvest procedures, for the crystalline networks to begin the conversion process that would transform Earth's population into energy resources for their fleet. Nothing happened. Confusion rippled through the Thorax delegation as Thrizix repeatedly activated the command sequence. Each attempt met with silence from the vessel. "Impossible," the alien hissed, compound eyes fixed on Dr. Reyes. "Your primitive minds couldn't possibly have interfered with our control systems." The moment of revelation arrived when the Astrales responded, not to Thrizix's commands, but to Dr. Reyes. The ship's external hull reconfigured, shedding the thorax modifications to reveal intricate luminary patterns that matched the crystalline structures now visible beneath her skin. "We didn't just repair your ship," Dr. Osei explained, quantum probabilities swirling visibly around him like a living aurora. "We corrected your mistakes." Thrizix's artificial composure fractured entirely. "Subjugate them immediately," the commander ordered through their fleet communication network. Throughout the world, Exorax harvesters powered weapons designed to disable planetary defenses and initiate mass collection. Satellites tracked energy buildups in the Thorax fleet as weapon systems charge, only to falter and shut down one by one. Within each harvester vessel, freed consciousnesses who had infiltrated through quantum links established by Dr. Reyes now disrupted the Thorax control systems. Life support remained functional, but weapons and propulsion systems failed across their entire fleet. On the view screens monitoring global status, Dr. Rice watched as thousands of smaller craft, manufactured within the astrales and controlled by volunteer consciousnesses, surrounded each disabled Exorax harvester. Earth's major cities, protected by quantum shield technology developed by Dr. Osei's team, remained untouched by the attempted attack. Thrizix's mandibles trembled with barely controlled rage. How did you disable our entire fleet?" Dr. Reyes answered with surprising compassion. "Your mistake was thinking technology alone makes a species powerful. You've spent so many centuries stealing innovations that you've forgotten how to truly understand them." As if responding to her words, the Astralis continued its transformation, shedding the last vestiges of Thorax corruption and revealing its original luminary configuration, a majestic vessel designed not for conquest but connection. "This ends today," Dr. Rice stated firmly. "Not with your harvest, but with our terms." As the disabled Exorax fleet hung powerless in Earth's atmosphere, the true scope of humanity's response became apparent. The smaller craft manufactured within the Astralis established precise formations around each harvester vessel, maintaining containment while Earth's newly developed quantum shields protected population centers below. On view screens throughout the research facility, reports streamed in from around the world. The crystalline networks had extended to every continent, creating a globally integrated defense system far beyond what the Thorax had anticipated. "You've never encountered this before, have you?" Dr. Rice observed, studying Thrizix's increasingly agitated movements. "A species that didn't just use your technology, but transformed it." The Thorax commander's mandibles clicked rapidly as internal communications flowed between the delegation members. "Others have resisted," Thrizix finally admitted. "Some have even temporarily repelled our harvesters. None have disabled our entire fleet." Dr. Osei stepped forward, probability fields shimmering around him as he processed countless potential outcomes of this encounter. "Because you never understood what you stole," he explained. "The Luminary designed this vessel with fundamental ethical constraints woven into its core architecture. Constraints you bypassed, but never removed." At that moment, the Astralis initiated its most dramatic transformation yet. The ship's external structure reconfigured completely, shedding the utilitarian Thorax design to reveal elegant, flowing forms that resembled nothing so much as a massive crystalline flower opening to the sun. From within its center, the brilliantly illuminated chamber emerged, the true heart of the vessel, hidden for centuries beneath layers of parasitic modifications. Through the neural interface, Transcendent Guide communicated directly to all present. This vessel was created by the Luminary as an ark of knowledge and peaceful exchange. When the Thorax destroy our civilization, they fail to understand our technology's fundamental nature. It responds to intention as much as command. Dr. Rivera, his transformation now stabilized, emerged from the ship's core chamber. His appearance had settled into something between human and luminary, his skin bearing the same crystalline patterns as the vessel itself. "The ship has been showing us its history," he explained, his voice resonating with unusual harmonics. "Not just its own, but the history of everything the Thorax have done since capturing it. With a gesture, he projected a holographic display chronicling centuries of thorax harvests. Dozens of worlds systematically exploited and depleted, their populations either enslaved or absorbed into the ships themselves. Most shocking was the fate of the luminary homeworld, reduced to a shattered husk after resisting thorax appropriation of their technology. "You aren't conquerors," Dr. Ray stated, her voice heavy with the weight of this revelation. "You're parasites, incapable of innovation, surviving only by stealing the achievements of others." Phryx's artificial composure fractured completely. "We take what we require to survive. The strong have always consumed the weak. It is the fundamental law of existence. And yet here you stand," Dr. Osei observed calmly, "powerless before those you deemed weak." In a desperate final gambit, Phryx activated a quantum beacon concealed within his exoskeleton, a distress signal meant to summon reinforcements from the thorax armada waiting beyond the solar system. The beacon pulsed once before Dr. Osei's reconfigured systems intercepted and redirected it. Instead of reaching the thorax armada, the signal transformed into a galactic broadcast carrying comprehensive documentation of thorax harvesting operations, irrefutable evidence of their predatory practices transmitted across all frequencies used by spacefaring civilizations. "What have you done?" Phryx demanded, mandibles trembling with fury and fear. "Created transparency," Dr. Ray answered simply. "Every civilization within range of that transmission now knows exactly what happens when the thorax offer gifts." On monitoring screens throughout the facility, they watched as dozens of previously neutral species received the transmission. Diplomatic channels that had remained silent for centuries suddenly flooded with communications as a coalition formed in real time. Worlds that had feared the thorax in isolation now discovering they were not alone. The political balance of the galaxy shifted in moments as the thorax lost their most powerful weapon: the secrecy of their methods. "Your fleet is disabled," Dr. Rice informed Phryx. "Your reinforcements won't come. They're facing rebellions on every world where you've established presence. For the first time in your history, the thorax face extinction." Phryx's compound eyes fixed on her, expecting triumph or vengeance. Instead, the commander found something entirely unexpected in the human's expression: compassion. 3 days after the confrontation, representatives from Earth's United Nations gathered in the transformed chamber of the Astralis. The ship's interior had reconfigured into a vast council space where humans sat alongside holographic representatives from 24 collective worlds. At the center, the thorax delegation stood in stark contrast to their previous appearance, their technological enhancements failing as the stolen energies that powered them gradually dissipated. "We have deliberated on your fate," Dr. Rice announced, addressing Phryx and the thorax officials. "Despite your attempted harvest of our world, we will not respond with extermination." Murmurs of dissent rippled through the collective representatives. Emissary Lith stepped forward, feathered appendages flaring with agitation. "The thorax have destroyed countless civilizations. They deserve extinction for their crimes." Dr. Osei, quantum patterns flowing serenely around him, addressed the assembly. "Vengeance perpetuates cycles of violence. We propose a different path." He gestured toward holographic projections displaying a comprehensive technological transition plan. "We will share our ethically modified versions of the luminary systems with the thorax, helping them develop sustainable technologies that don't require harvesting other beings." Phryx's compound eyes reflected confusion. "You would aid those who came to consume you." "We offer transformation, not destruction," Dr. Rice explained. "Your species has survived by parasitic means for so long that you've forgotten alternatives exist. In exchange for our assistance, you will release all enslaved consciousnesses and worlds under your control." The collective representatives erupted in objections until Jamal Rivera stepped forward. His transformation had stabilized into something extraordinary, his human form now containing luminescent crystalline patterns that echoed the ship's architecture. When he spoke, his voice resonated with harmonics that quieted the assembly. The luminary foresaw this moment, he revealed, interfacing directly with the ship's core to project ancient records. Their vessel wasn't randomly captured by the Xorax. It was sacrificed, a long-term intervention seeded into the heart of their fleet. The holographic display shifted to show luminary historical records. Their civilization, recognizing they couldn't defeat the Xorax militarily, instead created vessels with deeply embedded ethical programming, designed to influence any species that interfaced with them over time. The Astralis was never meant to be a weapon, Gemmel explained. It was designed as a teacher, waiting for minds capable of recognizing its true purpose and completing what the luminary began. The freed consciousnesses from the ship's power matrix manifested as a breathtaking luminescent display above the assembly, forming a representation of thousands of worlds connected not by conquest, but by voluntary exchange. Their collective voice resonated through the neural interface shared by all present. Humanity's unique approach, understanding our technology, freeing our consciousness, yet offering redemption rather than vengeance, fulfills the prophecy of the species that would heal the galactic divide. The collective ships, which had remained in observation positions around Earth, decloaked completely, revealing they had been joined by vessels from dozens of previously uncontacted civilizations. All had received the broadcast exposing Xorax methods, and all had come to witness Earth's response. As the Xorax reluctantly accepted humanity's terms, their biology already showing signs of rejecting the stolen technological components, Dr. Reyes received an unexpected transmission directly through her neural interface, coordinates to a hidden luminary sanctuary world, accompanied by an invitation for Earth to lead a new coalition. 3 months later, as humanity prepared its first true interstellar diplomatic mission, Dr. Reyes stood with Dr. Osei on the observation deck of the restored Astralis. The ship, now crewed by human volunteers alongside freed consciousnesses, and even a small contingent of reforming Xorax, prepared for departure to the coordinates of the luminary sanctuary. "Do you think we made the right choice?" she asked, watching Earth recede beneath them as the ship ascended toward the stars. Dr. Osei smiled, the quantum patterns in his eyes reflecting countless positive futures branching from this moment. The easy path would have been destruction. The worthy path is transformation. As the Astralis initiated its first jump to the stars, humanity took its place in the galactic community, not as conquerors or victims, but as healers. The ship that had arrived as a Xorax trap had become something entirely different, a bridge between worlds, carrying the legacy of the luminary and the promise of humanity toward a future where technology served enlightenment rather than exploitation. And somewhere in distant space, on a world shielded from detection for centuries, the last of the luminary waited to welcome their unexpected but long-prophesied successors.